Hey, TikToxic. What up, y'all? Happy Taco Tuesday. My favorite day of the week. Y'all have to exhale. Last night was a lot. In fact, the last 2 months have been a lot. I'm doing this video today for anybody that'll listen so that I can speak my truth before it all comes out. And if it does all come out, you will see that, in fact, I'm being raw. I'm going to keep it real. I'm ashamed of myself. I am disgusted. At the end of the day, I did not realize the whole big picture here until the last 3 weeks, when I finally said enough is enough. And so, y'all, let's talk about it. Y'all, if Krista puts out all of the video and all of the evidence, you'll see that everything I'm saying here is the truth. And I want to speak on Krista for just one moment. I have the pleasure of being invited to a Discord with her and a few other people that I may or may not mention in this video. People who I would never think would ever associate with me. And in fact, are probably some really badass bitches, you know? And so I want to speak on Krista just for a minute. I had heard some things through other people, you know, that maybe she's had an out with or whatever, some kind of issue or conflict. But in fact, if you know me, I don't base my opinions off of other people's opinions. And so I have to say that Krista was very smart in everything that she did. She was very diligent. She's pretty funny, crazy witty. And in the last couple of days, I have enjoyed just getting to know her. I believe this all started 2 months ago. Not necessarily because of all Crystal, you guys, okay? But I believe this all started about 2 months ago, this whole thing with WTF. And I say this because Crystal had come into one of my lives a couple of days after the airport incident. If y'all know me, you know I don't get into the drama. I don't watch anything. And so I had no idea who she was, but my friends did. She ended up DMing me and telling me that, in fact, she liked everything that we said, that she was always watching outside and from the outside and liked what we had to say. And in fact, we all know, let's keep it real, Crystal's watching all of us, right? She's watching all of our lives. But I didn't know that at the time, right? And honestly, guys, this message, this is in fact the start of our friendship, and we did have a friendship. I knew it was going a little south, and some of the things that Crystal would talk about, and eventually, after a couple of weeks of talking to her, she just out of the blue started sending me pictures of people that she was finding through different websites and different means. And Crystal started sending me things like this, guys. I didn't even know who WTF was. I didn't know at that time, but now I do, putting the whole picture together, that in fact this was so relevant. There were also voice recordings where Crystal in fact had said where this lady did her business and stuff like that. And I always thought it was weird that I was getting myself into drama, or that Crystal would come to me and tell me that people were talking about me or whatever. And everyone knows sometimes, you know, I would blast a motherfucker if I was tested. And when you have somebody that you think is your friend, you know, putting you in this chaos, you think that they're just being loyal to you at the time, right? And then things like this happen and you see the whole bigger picture. But I will say this openly and honestly, everything that I have and the proof that I have, Crystal did not do all this. And in fact, I think maybe she had a hand in it in the beginning. I think that it all went south between her and Shelly and whoever else in the middle of it. And I think that that's when Shelly looked to turn and premeditate a setup on me. Refer to the screenshot from our months-long conversation between me and Crystal. This was just one of many times that Crystal would come to me and say that somebody was talking about me. And in fact, Sparkly Jen, if you're listening, she did this between me and you quite often. And I also didn't correlate the fact that twice I'd been in Sparkly Jen's box. WTF would be up in there both times, in fact, asking me why I was doing things to her, and I didn't even know who she was, and we both realized that we didn't know who each other were. And towards the end of all this, I realized now that WTF only knew me and spoke on me because of the relationship that she was having with Crystal Positive Vibes. So let me finish by saying this about Crystal. Okay, she is not Fruit Cocktail. Fruit Cocktail is Shelly Calhoun. Shelly Calhoun is a psychopath. Crystal, yes, she has issues. We all do. I think that her issues stem from, you know, her and Shelly both, you know, living to tell about an unaliving, right? Y'all, Crystal is not all of this, but I think in the beginning she was, okay? Yes, she causes chaos. Yes, she's broke. Yes, all of those things. It's not right. What I did wasn't right either. But like I said, I'm speaking truth to you guys today. To finish up on Crystal, y'all, I did expose her nudes that she sent me in a Discord with Cliff Notes Anna, JJ Immortal, Outlaws Immortals, and Shelly Calhoun. I never once consented to those pictures being blasted on the internet, ever. In fact, I was convinced that I needed to prove that I was telling the truth by being honest about the relationship through Shelly Calhoun. And let me also make it clear that I went to Cliff Notes Anna because JJ had convinced me that not only was that her best friend, that I could trust her and that she would help me with this. See, I was being stalked on the internet, okay? The same random burners over and over again asking for follow after follow after follow after follow request, okay? All day, every day, and getting DMs like this or hidden messages calling me names and really scary things like this. I was convinced that I was being stalked by Crystal, okay? And JJ and Shelly convinced me that, in fact, I needed to go to Cliff Notes Anna, right? And let me speak on that for just 1 second. Cliff Notes Anna and Outlaws did nothing wrong. They were duped too, okay? I don't know what the point was to her embellishing whatever I told her, Cliff Notes, other than maybe she was trying to, you know, make sure that her reputation was still intact. But in fact, I left that Discord because Shelly and JJ convinced me, and I have the text messages to prove it, that in fact Anna was going to not only expose who the real fruit cocktail was, even though I knew it was Shelly, but was going to help me with Crystal, and it was going to take some time, and they were going to build up to it. But when I saw Anna's live, I knew that I had been set up, and that's why I left the Discord. And guess what? I went in there and I screenshotted it all because it's not something that I normally do, and I've been disgusted by it, okay? The whole phone recording, screen recordings, whatever. But I screenshot it, and I'm glad I did, guys, because the very next day, it had disappeared. A few weeks ago, I had gone to Itty, who is a doll and freaking an amazing person and probably one of the greatest people I've met on this app, for real. But I went to her and I told her, in fact, after the second time that Nicole had exposed WTF's naked pictures on my platform without my permission. In fact, it was without my permission. It caught me by surprise. Okay? I told her that not only was she not allowed to come into my lives anymore and be in a box, but in fact, I didn't really want to associate with her anymore and that I was sorry. After being on the phone calls in Discord that Nicole did not know that all of us were on and heard the disgusting, bald-faced lies, setups, and gross accusations that Nicole said, the words that she spoke on somebody who was supposed to be her best friend. She's a piece of shit, and she needs to get help. The page is saying what you all won't say, aka JJ, and fuck the haters, aka Free Cocktail, aka Shelly Calhoun, were coming into my lives for a while once they started those pages up, okay? I thought it was because I was a free thinker and because, I did have a mouth on me and I didn't let people talk shit. And it was all just fun and games, and I reposted a couple of their things, right? But I didn't honestly think anything more into it or how serious this actually was until a few weeks ago when I decided, what the hell am I doing? This is disgusting. This is not who I am. And I'm going to hell for this, like literally, right? That's how horrible I feel for any kind of involvement I had in this. I didn't publish anything. I only reposted. Okay, I didn't contribute anything other than the parts that I gave them that I thought was going to help Cliff Notes Anna. Okay? And I also gave them a recording of Crystal talking about WTF. Shelly was recording me and Itty's phone conversation. She was setting us up in every way she could. She kept telling us that she was going to make sure we were cleared when WTF started getting word from Crystal Positive and whoever else, that in fact this was all us. And it wasn't, y'all. I was manipulated. I was duped. But no one held a pew-pew to my head. And I said yes, right? And I did some of the things that I did out of spite because I wanted to impress people. It is what it is. I can't take it back. What I can do is I can learn from it. This Shelly Calhoun was brought into our life and exposed to us who she was by, in fact, Nicole. And I started to get to know her because that was Itty's best friend and because Itty and I our friendship was growing and blossoming into something so amazing. And in fact, Nicole had us all duped. But if we want to keep it real, y'all, Nicole had no idea either because, in fact, they were doing the same thing to her that they were doing to me and Itty. She would tug at my heartstrings and cry, saying that she was going to, off herself again, or, all the panic attacks and all the different health issues that she had gotten from just being bullied and all these stories. Shelly tugged at my heartstrings through stories of drama and bullying and things that she knew I wouldn't know because she had watched me for months in my lives through their pages and in fact, knew that I wasn't into the drama and I didn't really know about anything, right? I'm going to try to sum the rest of this story up for y'all in a part 2. Hey, TikToxic, what up, y'all? Happy Taco Tuesday.